Good evening, Foxes fans. Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, and this is your instant match reaction to the FA Cup game between Manchester United and Leicester City, where it's ended 2-1 to the Red Devils. I am joined by Luke, my brother from down under. And just before we get on to what you think, Luke, I've got a quick question for you, and that's this. Luke, can you tell me what's wrong about this picture?
You've got two players, one of them Slabhead being like a massively offside. But look, let's be honest, mate. Like, I'm really gutted, and that is obviously a blatant offside. But let's be real here. If this went into overtime, this game was going one way only, and it wasn't going our way. So let's be honest. But yeah, nonetheless, a brutally disgusting offside.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with you there. I mean, it's definitely offside. I think it's unfair to say that, like, the game. Yeah, I think Manchester United were looking the more likely to score, but this is an awful decision, right? It's not just the fact that Hoyland's obviously offside. They've got Xerxes, Maguire who scores, and who's this Garnacho? They're all offside. So at first I was screaming. I was thinking, what is Bouba Samari doing? He's completely let Maguire go, but he was playing him off. He was playing him off. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, here you go. Andreas said 4 off and we got robbed. Like I say, we may well have lost in the second half. Fair enough. But I mean, if you're going to lose, you know. Anyway, guys, welcome to the match reaction. You can get your match ratings in below. There's a link in the description. Have some fun, join in and fill those in. We always like to see. There's a lot to talk about this game. It was a free hit. I think to quote Chester Leicester here, oh, well, I don't care. We need to focus on the league. And sorry, Luke, bring up that other comment. We're going to have a little bit of getting in each other's way, which sometimes happens in a Leicester defence. But here we can take a look at some of the stats then. So it finished 2-1, a pretty even game. At the end of the day, I'm surprised Manchester United had as many big chances as they did. There are a few, obviously. There was that amazing goal line clearance from Caleb Okoli. They had a lot more shots. The game, well, we'll come to it in a moment, but the game I felt we were in control of until we made the certain substitution, which I think I could understand why we made that substitute. Let's see if Luke does blow up the internet today. That's what he's here for. But I think, yeah, Garnacho coming on has basically turned that game for them. They got in behind, but I don't really think they decided to win in normal time, to be honest with you. I, of course, will sound salty. So I tell you what, let's just talk about the lineup and your thoughts on when you saw this. Obviously, it's fresh in everyone's minds. And yeah, there's another comment, never a free kick either. I thought that was actually going out for touch, not a free kick. Very interesting. But yeah, Luke, talk to me about the lineup going into this. What did you think of it?
I was happy with Daka starting, and I was happy with Okola starting, definitely. I think Thomas had a shocker. To be honest, I would have much rather just have JJ moved over to the left or just Warrior playing on either side, to be honest with you. But the one egregious thing for me is just I don't want to see him start again. He's not a starter. He never was and never should be. He is absolutely too slow, ruins our build-up play. His hold-up play never merits any fruit, in my opinion. So I just don't. I think if you're trying to hold off on a victory, when he pulled the dark arts against Tottenham, yeah, sure, mate. There's a time and place for that. But him starting in front of Fakondu is really starting to scream Brendan Rodgers vibes for me when he refused to play Sionsu and played Amati instead. I just don't see the merit in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, IE stayed on the pitch the entire game, believe it or not, which is crazy. Even denied Jeremy Monga the opportunity to get on. I think what is interesting looking at this tactical setup, which surprised me, firstly, the fact that he played Bobby Reed on the right-hand side rather than the left. We can talk about that in a moment. And then also the fact that he started Luke Thomas. I think Caleb Okoli coming in to add that additional pace, that was understandable given Vestergaard's horror show. Koulibaly didn't start, but he did come on and was, well, we'll talk about him in a moment. And yep, Samari, and of course the returning Ndidi, who we will talk a lot about in just a second. So let's get on to some of the match ratings. You've still got time to fill them in, but they're updated dynamically. So we're going to start going from right away from the beginning. So let's talk about Mads Hermansen. What did you make of Mads' performance today?
Much better than last week, mate. Didn't really make any saves, but didn't really need to. The goals that went in, I think the slab head one was really harsh. You can't really slate him for it. His set piece defending was questionable, but also good at times. Not really much to say about him, to be honest with you, mate. Like, he didn't really have a whole lot to do. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he dropped a ball near the start of the first half, but it didn't go in, so it didn't really matter. that second goal, some people saying, oh, he should have come out to grab it, but it's not his fault. No one on the team. That's the linesman that's done that. So I think he was pretty solid. And yeah, he goes 6 out of 10. I think that's first one. Slipped for the first goal. Perhaps that's true. But I think, that's not something he could really do too much about. I think there's someone who's a much bigger culprit for that, which we'll come on into such a second. Notice Mads played much further up, pushing defense higher, especially in the first half. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that game back from last season. That's definitely something that Cooper didn't do. Now, the thing is, we started playing that high line against Everton, and with Vestergaard in the team, it just doesn't work. But with Okoli, well, we'll talk about that when we get to him. And I also think there's some comments about Ndidi, which we'll definitely come to. So, okay, you've mentioned him already. If he is going to break the internet, this could be one of the players he does it for. Though I think he's far from the worst. I think there's a really big culprit we'll talk about in a moment. But what did you make of Luke Thomas today?
Definitely one of the worst. If we're isolating the first half, he was the worst for me personally. What annoys me more is he's out of contract. And if we have a transfer embargo when we go down, we can't re-sign him, and neither do we want to. So we've signed Woyu as our only signing. So not starting Woyu in a cup game and playing Thomas instead, who's going to leave for nothing at the end of the season, is really redundant and doesn't make sense to me. And it's just another one of those things where it's just like, Rude, what are you thinking, mate? Like, I like a lot of things you do and I hate so many others, but I thought he was a complete garbage the first half. He'd never be a Premier League player. He's a championship squad option, in my opinion. I know that sounds harsh, Leicester City Academy product. I'm sorry. But for me, he's a bench option in the championship. So it's not a coincidence that both Sheffield and Borough didn't want him.
Well, it's interesting. I agree with a lot of people who says that. I don't think Luke Thomas was too bad. I think he had some clangers in the first half. But, I mean, a lot of people saying he was better than Koulibaly. So there you go. I mean, let's take a look at the ratings and we'll see. 4.8 suggesting Luke's drinking his coffee as it comes in. I see what you're saying, but I think he'd had some sort of issues there. I like the slippy throw in. We'll see. Thomas was better than VK has been for us. I'm not sure about that, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. I don't think he was either good or bad today, to be honest with you. Let's talk about Wout Faes. He had an awful game at the weekend. Today, though, he felt much better. What do you think?
I thought he was decent. It was interesting that he was the center option of the back three, and I think he was given the captain's armband as well. I don't think he was actually really put a foot wrong today. I think that goal where he got a touch toward deflection was quite unlucky. I think it was the first goal. So look, I thought he was okay today, to be honest with you. And I can understand if we're going to play a high line, well, we've played him and Okoli together because they're the paciest options that we have compared to Cody and Vestergaard. Didn't really put a foot wrong for me today. I think I gave him a 6. I think that's a fair score. So I'd be curious to see what you think and what the chat thinks.
Yeah, Faes was lost in transit on the first goal. Wout Faes didn't do anything bad, but also didn't anything good just there. Better from Faes, but still has that error in him. I think that's kind of true. And there's some good comments here. It's like Garnacho was left in too much space, not going to lie. He was the difference maker for me in that game, and good comment from Conscious. Compare the first half and the threat on our left with Thomas, and then the second with Garnacho on our right. He can't cover their wing back and their wide forward in the same move. I think that was the tactical adjustment that they managed to find in getting in behind there. So he got a 5.2, maybe a bit harsh, but he didn't really do anything either good nor bad. I think that one time where he made a good clearance, actually it almost went in, and this man actually bailed him out. So what did you make of Caleb Okoli? And welcome to the chat, Locks. Thank you for joining us.
All good.
We've already showed the offside, absolutely honking.
Yeah, mate. And I was just going to say on that, by the way, I think it shows what Leicester has done to me and so many others this season that I was kind of a bit like numb. Like normally I'd be fuming, kicking off.
Yeah.
It is what it is now.
Yeah, it's whatever, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought Okoli was very good, by the way. I thought he was very, very good.
Got anything to say about Faes before we move on?
Just Faes, isn't it? You know what I mean? He never has a 10 out of 10 game. He either has a 7 or a 2. So, yeah, hate him. Anyway, no, Okoli, I was really impressed by Okoli. And you know what Manny's like? You know, Manny's massive head. He's like, yeah, see, I was right, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he was good. He was very good.
What about that clearance, though? And you love the passion afterwards as well.
I threw my headset off. Like, ask Neil, like, my classic rage is if a goal goes in, it's the headset comes off. But I thought he'd scored. I thought he'd fucking top bins the fucking own goal. And I'm like, oh my God, you pineapple head. But then I saw a replay and he'd saved it, banged off the crossbar, celebrates like he scored. Love to see it. pacey, decent on the ball. I think he keeps his place, to be honest with you. I think much better than Yannick Vestergaard for me, to be honest with you. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. What I've seen the match ratings is 7.2. I don't think he was spectacular, but he did everything he needed to do. And what I will say is that you noticed, and I think people forget this, but someone put a comment saying that basically our team up until 60 minutes was pretty good. And that team up until 60 minutes had Mads Hermansen back in goal, had Wilfred Ndidi in the team. It always had Caleb Okoli. And all of a sudden, you're talking a bit about a spine in the team, do you know what I mean? And of course, the Moroccan magician up there. So everything other than your striker and everything just looks so much more solid. And he's got to take his respect for that. The team looked more solid with Caleb Okoli in the team because he's faster. He does make the occasional misplaced pass. I don't think his mistakes are as bad as Wout Faes. And, you know, the thing is with pace is it's like a cheat code. It gives you the ability to cover if you do make a mistake higher up the pitch. So I think he was... yeah, very decent, I think. And I agree. I think that it is going to be one of those things where he does still make errors, not the finished article. Yes, I really agree with that. That's what you want to see. People actually celebrating like, you know, their lives depended on it. It's such an unfortunate way, the way that we got dropped out in this game, because that's going to kill your confidence, isn't it? You didn't deserve to lose a game like that, but let's see. But his passing, you know, I think could be improved a bit, but he's a bit match shy on that one. But all right, let's move on to right back, James Justin. So interesting one. I think he was solid for large parts of the game, but I've got to say that as soon as Garnacho came on, all of a sudden the game really changed. It wasn't just Garnacho. Diego Dallo was also making those runs into that same channel. And Luke and I were watching the game together, and all those long diagonals kept getting popped there. And it's like you could see what was coming. So, Luke, what did you make of James Justin's performance?
I think that the first half, we're going to have to kind of cover two players here, in my opinion, because I think it deserves speaking. So I think that JJ had a really good first half. How much of that is down to JJ and how much of that is down to Wilfred Ndidi being on that same side of him and that double pivot and that kind of cover for him is the biggest question for me, actually. Like, so I think it's a glaring hole that we have. And I was saying to Anil during the game, what Ndidi kind of feels like to me is the plug that we've been missing for some holes in the club right now. And I think that I definitely think Garnacho was really good and a good substitution, but I definitely think there's something to be said for Wilfred Ndidi impacting JJ's second half, left exposed, got skinned a few times. For me, I would have given him probably a 6 purely just because the first half I thought he was decent. What are your thoughts?
Well, what do you think, Locks? You got to see it live with Manny. What were your thoughts? I mean, did you feel it like the rest of us? How like it started well, but I could just smell it. Do you know what I mean? Even before they scored their goal, that's where the danger was. Garnacho was cooking him.
Yeah, but I mean that was just fuel on the fire when Ndidi got taken off, right? But I think it was probably always the plan as well. By the way, Ndidi to come off.
Yeah,
of course, as we know firsthand, we know this now about this team that when Ndidi's not on the pitch, they're a lot less protected, and Winks doesn't offer really anything, down that side defensively as backup. So he was always going to struggle a bit more when Wilf went off. Yeah, I mean, I would have even maybe switched Woyo and Justin and had Woyo on the right and given Woyo a chance to defend up against Garnacho and JJ on the left. However, I've got a feeling the viewers have given him quite a low rating. I've seen some viewers actually blame him for the goal, the winner, because of the handball, but it was never a handball.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been a free kick. Yeah,
his arm was here, and that's the shape of his body. So I think the viewers have probably given him a harsher rating than he deserves. I wouldn't give him anything over a 5 though myself. There we go. Yeah,
I feel that's a bit unfair there. I agree with what you're saying there. I do think there's a few things there. So I was getting a bit frustrated, like Rude needed to fix it, but then he brought on Casey McAteer, and I think that was the idea because, as you saw, what Ruben Amorim did is he started going 2-on-1 versus JJ. So it was like Dallo and Garnacho. That was the adjustment that he made. I do agree with you. I was thinking about maybe switching it over, but I think you have to say that overall, it'll be interesting when we get to their scores, but we basically kept Amad Diallo fairly quiet in this game. He still looked pretty lively when he was on the ball, but he didn't do anything. Whereas Garnacho, I thought if he was less selfish, actually, they could have got some more goals. So I mean, I think I agree with this. He had a good game. Don't keep being negative towards him. I think it was more, he was solid until they started attacking his side, and we never solved that problem. Yeah, exactly. I think we tried to solve it, at least to give some credit, but we just didn't solve it. The issue with them was the whole wing, and Rude didn't react to the changes in Man United's attack, and Casey coming on didn't stop it. Yeah, exactly. We tried to do that on, but that wasn't the call. We needed someone. I don't know. Maybe it should have been move IU even out there. I don't know. All right. Let's go. Okay, we've been talking about it all the time. I'm sure the chat is probably fed up with hearing Manny probably absolutely blow his trumpet in more ways than one. But come on, Luke, you got to say that the difference when Ndidi is back in the team is literally night and day.
That was the most clear example for me personally. Without a doubt, there's no more experiments of 8s or 10s. He's 100% double pivot, and he showed why today. That was night and day, and I was worried when he came off. I'm like, well, we're going to look vulnerable here, and yes, we did. He was absolutely exceptional. He's winning the ball back. He's getting further up the pitch and winning the ball back there. His ball distribution wasn't as poor as it has been in the past. All around for me, mate, he was a 9. I agree with a lot of the chat. I thought he was really, really good, and I just hope that he's okay and ready to go against Arsenal because we're going to need him.
Absolutely. What did you think, Locks?
Yeah, mate, it was incredible. It just shows, this is the Wilf that we need if we want to even have any, tiny bit of hope of staying up. The problem is that he's always injured. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I said before the game, didn't I, that we were unbeaten under Rude with Wilf. I know it was only 2 games, but we won 1 and drew 1, and he makes a massive difference. And Samari has been some people's player of the season, and he made Samari look terrible because of how good he was. So I don't know if you saw the little Maradona spin as well. I mean,
that was class, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, mate, he was really, really good. I'm not going to give him a 10, but I'd definitely give him I would give him an 8, mate. I think I would give.
You're going to find this shocking. This really surprises me.
What?
Yeah. Maybe, to be fair, they're saying this just because he played up until 57 minutes. But I think this comment sums it up. Honestly, Wilf is our only chance of staying up. Yeah, because we've just looked horrendous recently. And you know what? Up until he went off, you're looking at that team, I don't think we look incredible, but we don't look like the 18th place team in the league. Do you know what I mean? It really makes that big of a difference. Maybe we're only the 17th best team in the league, but that's enough. That would be enough to keep you up, right? So he is the key man as part of the team. Well, all right, you've mentioned his midfield partner, so I'll actually let you take this, Dogs. Personally, I was rather disappointed with him today, but what did you make of Bouba Samare?
Very much so, mate. It was like the Bouba of 2023 or 2022, mate. I was saying to Manny, this is why Bouba gets, which I still think's an unfair tag of being lazy. And I think it's because he's very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's just very laid back on the ball. And sometimes that's good, right? It makes him look like he's a cut above the rest. However, when it doesn't work out, it makes him look lazy. And some of his passes were just not right. Lacking conviction. I still think he's a very, very good player on his day, but today he was poor, sloppy. Yeah, like Caleb says. It's a shame because we know how good he is on his day, but again, I think he just doesn't have that good day enough. We want it to be every weekend. Of course, that's never going to be the case, but I'd probably give him a 5. I'll give him a 5.
What do you think, Luke?
I think, unfortunately, I've come to the conclusion that the reality is that Boubacar Samari is a really mental player in terms of, I think he gets in his own head. I think that, he needs to see, maybe a sports psychologist or something. I think he beats himself and he relies way too much on his confidence. And I think that's why we'll see him have, 1 or 2, 3 really good games and then, a few real stinkers. I think if he makes a clanger early, that sets the tone for the rest of him in the match, in my opinion. I agree with everything you both said. Gave the ball away too much, ruined our build-up play. Didn't do enough defensively. So, in my opinion, sometimes when he has a bad game in that double pivot position, he offers absolutely nothing. And I'm not saying that Skip or Winks are a better option, but there's something to be said for him when he has a poor game that really, really leaves too many holes.
Yeah, he got a 5.2. I think I can see two sides of it. He did make that fantastic defensive phase. You remember when Fass like lost the ball and Samaria ran all the way back, covered for him and stopped Garnacho from scoring. That was brilliant. That's the good side of his game. The bad side is Man United had a corner. It broke from the corner. He goes running forwards with it and he just picked the wrong pass. He played in Bilal. I think Daka was on the other side. And you know what? That could have been 2-1. And that's just really frustrating. Like it's so funny. He's got the pace and the power that he gets to the ball in front of everyone with distance and time. And then he just picks the wrong option. It's like the brain stops working. Bit unfortunate. I was almost going to absolutely lose my shit at the end because I thought he let Maguire go. But even though he maybe could have made look like he was making more effort, to be honest, it'd be fair as saying, well, I didn't run back because it was clearly offside. And he'd have been right. It's not just one man offside. He could literally probably see 3 people. So very unlucky there. But I agree that like he's just inconsistent. As Locke says, that day doesn't come enough. And if it did, it would really make the team a lot better. I will say, though, with him next to Ndidi, that could be a big part of our season going forward. I think it was a bit disappointing that given that he was next to him, that he kept giving the ball away. Okay, let's talk about, I've got to give this to one man only, Bobby Donkey Overeed. What did you make of him, Luke? He got a goal today. Didn't know too much about it, but there you go.
He got a goal. Yep, he did. What else did he do? He put a few decent crosses in. Fair enough. I still don't think that he's a starter for me. I know I probably sound like a real hater, to be honest. Like, I'm glad he got his goal, but let's be honest, it all came from Wilf. He was in the right place, right time, like his other goals. Fair enough, he was there. There's something to be said for that. But I just don't feel like other than his goal and assist contributions, I don't feel like he has much contributions throughout the game for him to warrant starting ahead of Buonanotte or Wilf, Mavididi for me.
Can I just share one comment quickly, Anil, that Rude has just
Absolutely.
made in his interview? Rude said we were not. This is not even. This is like a. What's the guy on The Office called? Brent? What? David Brent? No, what's his name on The Office? I can't remember his name.
Yeah. It is David Brent. Yeah.
He said we were not defeated in Fergie time. We were defeated in offside time.
Love it, Rude. Love it, Rude.
Yeah.
I want to come back to Booba in a minute as well, because a lot of people are saying we're harsh on him. That's absolutely fine. That's what we're here for. Let's have the discussion. You tell us why you think we got Booba wrong. But let's keep going on to Bobby Reed. Luke, not the biggest fan of him. What did you think about him, Locks? I think he was okay. He wasn't just his goal. He did like a few decent crosses into the box. I will say that, especially for their first goal, him and JJ weren't doing well enough on the defensive phase against Garnacho, and that's ultimately why he got hauled off for Casey McAteer, but McAteer wasn't the answer either. Look, I'm not going to say, oh, you're so wrong, Luke, not at all. At best, I would say he's okay, but yes, I mean, I would agree with that. It was better than IU is all I have to say. So what did you make of Bobby Reed?
Well, there's all this talk, isn't there, about Mavididi, whether he should be playing or not. I mean, for me, Bobby D. Cordova-Reid is earning his place over Mavididi right now. I think he is doing enough to claim that spot. We did also obviously mention, I'm sure that you might have mentioned it already, Anil, that IU and D. Cordova-Reid actually started on opposite sides to what they normally do, right? D. Cordova-Reid off the right rather than the left. And the last time he did that was Brighton, I want to say. Brighton, which he also scored in, by the way. Bobby D. Cordova-Reid, he also scored in that one as well. Yeah. So I think Bobby Reed, for me, I mean, I would give him probably a 6, 7. I think he did a good job. I still don't think I think he deserves a starting spot at the moment over Mavididi, but I think they both deserve a starting spot over IU. So yeah, I agree with the comments.
Yeah,
there.
Well said.
Cool. He got a 5.7, bit harsh there. I think he was all right overall. I can see the thing. I think he's one of those that's an interesting one. Like, I don't see quite how he fits into the sort of system in terms of what his best role is. Like, it's funny that, like, yeah, putting him on the right hand side sort of makes sense and doesn't, because he's not the player that's ever really going to cut in and have a shot, even if he's on the left hand side. So being on the right hand side, he can have a better crossing ability. But then, for example, we've got here, he was great insurance for JJ. Absolutely. But was he? I don't know. I think that's why he got hauled off. So I don't think he was. I think that's the thing. That's not his fault, but because of his physical stature, he doesn't do so bad. Just want to say, guys, because people say when we review it, we don't do the scores. These are your scores that are coming through. So that's why sometimes like Locks and Luke are giving their opinions. We're giving their scores. So I think Samari was better than that rating too. But that's what you guys, the fans, have scored him. So just to get that out the way. But on Bobby Reed, his interceptions were on point, and he definitely put in the shift defensively. Brings a little balance into the team, but he can't last the full 90. And I agree with this. His legs have gone. Yeah. And that's why I think that they were getting in. And that can happen to everyone. But he was okay. Okay.
Just
well, let's
on the
talk
Samari
about
stuff, by the way. Just because I had some stats here. I mean, his accurate pass. So he had an 85% pass rate, 0 key passes, 0 crosses, 0 accurate long balls. He had. He lost possession 12 times. So yeah, I mean, I get what people are saying. Maybe me and Luke have spoken a little bit harshly of him, but I think he was okay. But I don't think it was anywhere near what it needs to be. Oh, you've got the stats there anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's better enough. I mean, I agree. I think that he's been underscored given that 5 tackles is pretty good. It's actually better than Ndidi. Decent stats there, but yeah, that's why we have this show. I mean, it's fun to see what definitely people think is right and good. But all right, let's get on to the man. I spoiled it. What did you think of Bilal?
Sacked in the morning.
Sacked in the morning. Yeah.
I think Bilal El-Khanous, for me, I gave him an 8 as well, borderline a 9. Yeah. I think Bilal El-Khanous, I think I've really sucked him off enough at halftime, but I love Bilal El-Khanous. He's my love child.
Is that why he came out so? Is that why he came out so bad in this? No, I'm joking.
I think Bilal El-Khanous is an absolute legend, mate. I'm really looking forward to seeing how his career blossoms. I think he's probably our best player, and I only hope people talk about Wilfred Ndidi. I think Wilfred Ndidi, Mads Hermansen, and Bilal El-Khanous are our 3 shining lights that we can hopefully stay up this season. We're really going to rely on them. 8 for me. Thought maybe that shot should have been on target. They took outside the box, as you pointed out earlier when we watched the game, Anil. But other than that, I think he's earned the right to take that shot after the goal against Tottenham.
Locks, how good is he?
Man, I stand by what I said. He is a much better player than James Maddison was at that age.
Yeah,
I think he's so much better. Slightly different type of player. Obviously, I mean, Maddison in terms of end product, much better. But this guy, mate, he can just run the show on his own. Imagine if we didn't have this player in our team, we would be absolutely mudded. So him and Ndidi and Samari as that 3 going forwards, that is our. I mean, I know Luke just said, "Oh well, I know people say Ndidi's our only hope," but I think Bilal is. Them 3, that midfield is our hope of staying up, because on their day, mate, we just look good. So yeah, I disagree that he's better than Maddison now. I see where people would come from with that. I think I'd still rather like Maddison now. To be honest with you,
I don't know. I think he's having a poor season, Maddison. I know what he's saying there. I get what you're saying, Lux, but I don't think that's the most insane take I've ever seen. I think if you look at what the 2 players are doing for their teams, there's some. Because I wanted to ask this actually. I keep thinking about this, but not just for us, but when's the last time a 20-year-old player came to the Premier League in this sort of position where they're effectively running the show like that and controlling the game? Not for a long time. It was a slightly different position, but I mean, the one that always impressed me was when Cesc Fabregas came to Arsenal. I was like, I cannot believe a 17-year-old kid can literally run a Premier League game of football, and he was doing it. I think, to be fair, he came in older, but Maddison did have that kind of ability as a 10. But who in the Premier League's got like a 10 like this, or even an attacking 8 that controls the game, right, and makes things happen? I can't remember someone signing someone like that in a very, very long time. And mainly because the game's gone towards this more sort of like system-based thing, so you don't really have this sort of player that's able to roam around. Can you think of any? Yeah, maybe KDB. I mean, that probably is the player he's most similar to.
He could be the KDB replacement, the next one that goes to the City.
Yeah, honestly, I can't think of it. Just in the player profile, there's not even many people that. But Odegaard, actually, that's probably the one I would say, who came to the Arsenal team on loan, and he looked really frigging good. And then obviously they signed him. And I would say Arsenal's title challenges coincided with Martin Odegaard being signed permanently. I think that's extremely high praise, and I would say he's not too far off that, to be honest with you. 8 out of 10, absolutely deserved it. Did not deserve to be on the losing team tonight, that's for sure. And he looked absolutely gutted at the moment. Yeah, McAllister, how old is he? And Odegaard, yeah, McAllister, I think it's about 26, 27. All right. Unfortunately, we've just done the good players. We've got to have a bad one. Who wants to take Jordan Ayew? Go on.
I think Jordan Ayew should never start again. Complete fucking fat, useless, slow donkey. Walks off the ball. Pisses me off so much. Why does he start? This thing that he covers JJ, as I've said plenty of times, and Locks has pointed out, is a myth. And then I asked you, why do you think he plays? And you said it's maybe the stats would provide that he wins aerial duels. Once we win an aerial duel, and if that's probably going to be a header, then you're knocking it into a 50-50 position where it's coming high. It's going to be hard to control the ball and keep possession. I don't see the merit in him starting. I think he's so slow. Pass it back merchant. A build-up play gets ruined every single time he's on the ball. Walks up the pitch, passes it back. The opposition gets in a position ready to defend. The same thing can be mentioned for, I know people, I'll try not to go on too much of a tangent, but I think the problem is with him and Boubacar Samari. If Boubacar Samari wins a duel and gets the ball back, when he's distributing the ball like he was today, which is poor, it again ruins our build-up play. So I think those two and highlighted together can ruin a lot of our transition. I should not be starting again, mate. If we're winning a game, we want to keep the league, and he wants to come on of his dark arts and grab his head 56,000 fucking times, and sure, bring him on. But other than that, garbage, stupid contract, shouldn't have been signed, fat, slow turtle.
Locks, can you tell me? I don't understand why you hate Ayew. I'm not saying you necessarily hate him, but I think he is disliked by most people at BTG.
Well, I don't hate him. I mean, I value some of the, he scored 4 goals for us this season, and yes, I guess he kept Cooper in a job longer than we wanted him, so that goes against him. But I mean, Anil, mate, Cooper played him, over certain players. Rude is playing him over certain players. I mean, there's a reason for that. He's he's clearly a type of player that certain managers like, and that is, relevant with Cooper and Ruud van Nistelrooy. Of course, it's without question that Abdul Fattawu would be our preferred choice. But, who is the other option? I suppose you could say today, because Ayew was off the left, it's Mavididi or maybe El Kanouche off the left. But, yeah, I don't know, mate. I'm torn on Ayew. I think he does some things right, but especially when you're chasing a game, I think we were all saying, oh, come on, give Jeremy Munger his debut. But the game was tight. It was 1-1. Do you bring on a 15-year-old kid when a game's 1-1? I don't think you do. So, yeah, I mean, I love the best part today, mate, is me learning Manny's nickname for Ayew, which I think Luke needs to adopt. Luke, you can't call him a donkey anymore, fat donkey. His name is Chugosaurus Rex. That's what you call Jordan Ayew, Chugosaurus. There you go.
And what do we think the Chugosaurus Rex got?
I'm going to say a 2. I'll say a 2. Which I think is slightly harsh. There you go. Yeah.
He got a 4, which is probably more reasonable. I will say with Jordan Ayew, there's a lot he does, which is actually good. But as everyone's just saying time and time again, the point is that he just slows the attack down. So to me, he's like a Poundland Iose Perez. He used to do the same thing. Like Perez used to work really hard on that right-hand side, but we just to put the ball to him and the move would break down. This comment made me laugh. Mr. Backwards, he has no pace, no passing, no shooting, no physicality, no mind. He spins around himself and has this annoying stinky face like he smelled a fart all the time. Tell us what you really think, Say. That's maybe a bit harsh, but I think it's just he gets the ball. But the amount of times is frustrating where he could make a forward pass. Now, I know that some people conscious that just said there, well, sometimes there isn't a forward pass on. I do agree that, but a lot of the time he refuses to pass it when the run was there. Like, yeah, do you remember Woyo came on and Woyo made the overlapping run down that side and Ayew could have played him in. And what did he do? He just turns backwards and gives it into midfield. He just does that time and time again. Very frustrating player to watch. All right, so we changed our front man today and it was Mr. Patson Daka. So what did you make of him? I'll come to you, Locks. Did you think he made a difference to the team? Sadly, he went off injured towards the end.
I think our press with Patson Daka is just so much better. Of course, and this is somebody I don't have a problem with Luke calling a donkey. Patson Daka is is unfortunate, in the fact that, just people will write him off no matter what he does. And I think it's fair because of what he's done over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, he's come up with some goals, of course, but most of the time he is a donkey. But I thought he was decent today. I didn't have too many problems with him. There were a couple of moments where the ball came into the box and he kind of didn't try and really get his head on it or anything like that. He kind of just stood there looking around. He didn't really have too much aggression when trying to get the ball from a cross. But I think the press, mate, I mean, Anil, Luke, you tell me, but I think our press is better with Daka than it is with Vardy. And that will be down to the energy levels, of course,
Yeah.
half of it.
Yeah, well, that's why there's an argument. I mean, that's what I thought we were going to do this season, is actually start Daka, get him to run his legs out till 60, 70. Then when the opposition is tired, because teams rarely change their defenders, then you put Vardy on, and that would actually make Vardy look better, because Vardy would now be playing against players because they're gassed. There wouldn't be such a pace advantage. Like Brookline's put here, Daka is essential to generating pressure and turnovers. He will provide a better option on crosses for VK. I don't know about the second bit, just because I don't see too many crosses from VK. Could be true. But I think that I mean, look, this is fair. The press is pointless, Stocks, because he's never committed to winning it. Possibly true.
I don't think that's true.
I think the biggest problem for Patson Daka is this. I think that everything you guys said is true and has merit with his press and stuff like that, and doing the dog's work, closing down Onana. He was a bit more physical today and getting stuck into some challenges. But I think the biggest problem for Daka is me. As someone put in a comment earlier that he needs to make more intelligent runs. And I think in a nutshell, to sum him up, is that Patson Daka has no positional awareness whatsoever. And every time he comes back and features in the team, he looks so desperate to do something that he's just completely all over the pitch like a headless chicken. That's why I can appreciate why a lot of people are just saying he's a passenger, because to me, mate, he needs to stay in his lane, time those runs, do those presses. But for me, he's just all over the place and a headless chicken and a waste of money. But what's more egregious is, I'm going to touch on this one last final time. Why, King Power, you deluded fucking idiots, did you sell Tom Cannon, not reinvest the money? Daka goes off injured. We don't know how bad that is. So as it stands, we've got a retarded, stupid loan option who wasn't even on the bench today, who's taken up 9 million of wages. We've got Vardy, who's not been scoring, and he's 38, bless him. And we've got a turtle that can go up top. So if Daka's unavailable, we're going to try and put Mavididi up front again under the Cooper. Like, what are we going to do? Like, why the fuck did we get rid of Tom Cannon? It's absolutely frustrating and boggling my mind. I hate Rudkin. God damn it. Anyway, sorry.
Still, it's gonna have. You know what? It's gonna have to be Edouard's gonna have to be given a chance. I'm sorry, lads, but he is stuck with us. He's played 18 minutes of football, and that was under Cooper, right? He's not played a minute under Rude. Am I right? So, I think you should give him a chance. Maybe he's terrible in training. Maybe Rude doesn't like him, but
I don't think he presses enough, is what my guess is here. I mean, there's a lot of people here that's saying, okay, yeah, Daka couldn't score in a brothel, etc., etc. But how many actual opportunities was he given today? I'm not saying that it's not true, that he's not a good finisher, but I'm just saying, to say today that he was poor because he didn't score. Well, how many did he get given a one-on-one? Did he get given a cross? Not that I remember. We only created one big chance the entire game, and that was for Wilfred Ndidi, and then Bobby Reed sticks it in with the header. So I don't know about that, but I think this actually, I think, was a good comment from Dexter. It says Vardy presses space and passing lanes, which when defending in a 4-4-2 is the right thing, which is true. Daka presses the man, which means he'll be running like a headless chicken, which is true. Like, there was one point in the second half where he did actually press forward. He won the ball back and he forced it out for a throw-in for Man United. But if you looked at who was pressing with him, there was actually no one that was pressing with him. So that was a bit like Vardy of old, just sort of kind of like running around, no idea, but winning a ball back to try and get the crowd going, but it doesn't really achieve too much. But this is a good comment as well. It's like Vardy makes a lot of chances because of his movement, which I agree, whereas Vardy maybe doesn't do it. But yeah, it goes, he forced errors, which I agree. I've not seen that from Vardy this season. And he goes, Anil, he's so negative. Given the chance, he will pass it. No intellectual play whatsoever. I would say that's more true of Ayew than it is from Daka.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying he's the answer or anything like that, but let's see what his rating was. 5.1 he got given. So given 5 is average, perhaps that's fair. All right, let's come on to the manager then. So brilliant comment. Maybe if we'd have heard the comment, we'd have increased his rating. But what did you make of Van Nistelrooy overall, given the team lineup, the subs that he's made, the fact that we've ultimately gone out with, to an offside goal.
I mean, I think he was fine. I think, I did see somebody in the watch along say that he should have made all of the substitutions by the end, but I disagree with that because what he did, he left one sub, which meant that if it went to extra time, he could make two, because you get an extra one. And maybe, just maybe, we would have seen, young Munger in extra time potentially. But I don't think. Look, Tony says the subs killed us. If indeed he's knackered, what else can he do? If indeed he played the full 90, I think we probably. I think we would have gone to extra time. Harry Wanks let us down big time. He was shocking. Have you done it? I know you're not going to do it.
No, we're coming to it. Oh, don't you worry. We're coming to Harry Wanks at the moment.
So the sub had to be made. I mean, it was either Wanks or it was Skips, one of the two. And he's chosen Harry Winks. And it's just that. So I don't think Rude, I don't think there's much blame to put on Rude for that. It was an offside goal. We'd be sat here still. You lads would still be watching the game. Me and Manny would still be in the watch along if it wasn't the officials.
Might be a penalty shootout on right now with Jeremy Monga scoring the winner. Who knows?
Maybe we need to add a referee tab to the match.
Honestly, if I had time, I would have. I think I'm going to do that in the future because I think there should be one for the referee actually, because it is important. It just shows you that they can determine the course of a game. It's not just for this game. But I mean, I think there were some things he did which worked well and some things that didn't so well. So that starting lineup, I'm glad that he picked Okoli with FaZe. Yeah, that probably makes sense. They're the two fastest ones if you're going to try and play that way. I wasn't too impressed with Luke Thomas coming on, and I think Woyo Koulibaly coming on as left back later on. I mean, I would have just started him. He's a new player, give him the full 90 minutes. Rest of the team, I just don't like Jordan Ayew playing. We say he should be a finisher. I would rather Buonanotte. Other than that, I mean, you've got Bobby Reed over Mavididi, and there's some interesting comments suggesting that he might have fallen out with Mavididi, by the way. There you go. The subs.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah, like talking about kind of lifestyle choices. Here's an interesting take. The subs were good. Wilf off because he was unfit, so naturally Winks came on and he was good for 10 minutes. The Woyo straight swap and Casey to show up the right idea was a sensible idea. Even at the end, Daka was injured, so he's moved Ayew up top and then put Buonanotte on the right-hand side. Do you got anything to say about this, Luke? What did you think of Rude today?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with what you said, mate. He did things right. He did things really questionable. Thomas should not be starting again. His contract's running out. We've just bought Woyo. It's a cup game. He should have played the full 90 minutes, in my opinion, to see what he can do. Thomas was an absolute garbage can. I thought he was garbage, as I mentioned already. What I will say is that, in my opinion, if Harry Wanks, who we'll talk about in a minute, and Skip are going to keep putting in performances like that, and let's say indeed he has to come off and he's injured, and our only double pivot option is Samare. In my opinion, we just need to drop Bilal El-Khanous in that double pivot position alongside him and just put Buonanotte in the 10 position where he did so well under Cooper. He's not really a right winger. If you're going to find a way to facilitate having a both in the team, you either have to have Bilal playing up the left wing, although I think it's more crucial now that we've seen what he can do winning the ball back, that he needs to be somewhere essentially the pitch, whether it be the double pivot or it be as the 10. So that, in my opinion, is the way going forward, to be honest with you. I would much rather him as a 10, but I think we need to find a way to have them both in the starting 11, in my opinion. And I think that's bad for Ruud van Nistelrooy for not doing that.
Yeah. It was reported by Colomos that Mavididi didn't like Leicester targeting another winger, which is interesting. Someone's saying, has Luke Thomas wronged us in a previous life? I haven't got anything against him. I just think that given Koulibaly hasn't literally started at all for Leicester, he should have started as either right back or left back. Maybe you could have rotated both the full backs. But in my personal opinion, I don't think Luke Thomas is the answer to get you out of the problem. And I think Christensen is the better player of the two, even though he's not particularly brilliant.
Can I just say how pathetic, by the way,
yeah.
Neil, that comment? I mean, how pathetic is it? If there is even a tiny bit of truth to it, it just shows how weak and pathetic this squad is. That they're getting upset about Leicester being linked with wingers. I mean, up your game, mate. Make yourself undroppable. At the moment, you're getting dropped for Bobby D. Cordova-Reid, and you're worried about wingers coming in. Are you mad? Do you know what I mean?
That it's like Football
ridiculous.
Manager, isn't it? When you get linked with another signing and it says, "Oh, Locks has been saying that he's concerned because Mark Goldbridge has been linked to the move to blue tinted glasses."
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I agree. But I think that's the modern day player. I mean, Mourinho said that many times that it's there you go. Yeah, look, we're gonna do Thomas. I think it's fair. Yeah, saying he's crap is harsh. Yeah, I don't think he's crap. I think Luke is there. I don't think Thomas was overall crap. I think there's something to do okay, but he could have been better. Anyway, so that was rude. Let's move on to the subs. And well, I'm going to give this one to you. Actually, I'm going to get you both to talk about him because honestly, this was the turning point of the game. I think we were good up until 60 minutes. Indeed, he got taken off because to manage his time. It makes absolute sense. We put on Harry Winks. I don't think he had the best game. So talk to me, Locks. What do you think about Harry Winks?
He is the epitome of championship drop off, like the quality and drop off, how he looked like Pirlo last season. And he is absolute ass. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy how bad he was today. He's QPR's top assist maker, I think, in their season this year, for crying out loud. Like the number of chances he gave them in that game. And today it was shocking. 90 grand a week. Can I just say, Spurs fans don't like Daniel Levy, but he's managed to get 37 million for Winks and Skip.
Yeah.
That deserves a statue. Either that or, the Rodkin and Top need to be chased out of our club. It's crazy, mate. I understand why some people would argue the case that, certain games, Harry Winks might be a good fit. But to me, and I think a lot of us have said it for the last few weeks, regardless, Samari and Ndidi is the only option. It's the only option now. Yes, Ndidi might pick up another injury. It is what it is. But as long as they're both fit, as long as they're not suspended, it has to be Ndidi and Samari, because Harry Winks was awful.
His drop off this season has been absolutely incredible. Like when he came on, what was just so frustrating is I don't think he did anything right, to be honest with you. There's a few times that he's at fault in that first goal. There's a lot of times where he could have put a challenge in and didn't. A lot of times we had an easy pass, which is normally the thing that you'd put your money on him making a good solid pass, and he didn't. It's like the game was too pass. I mean, makes me laugh. Yeah, Wings struggling to pass win. Absolutely. Luke, what do you think? Because we were big fans of him, last season. But I don't think he's been good this season. What do you think?
I no longer can defend him, as that comment was pointed out earlier that we started. I to be honest with you, mate, the one thing I would say, look, he's decent. He's passing out the back, and today I think he about turned over every single ball that he got. Made no challenges, no interceptions. Was completely awful today. He looked completely panicked, well out of his depth. It's a shame, man. As I mentioned to you earlier, I really think he's hung up on Enzo, and he feels probably hard done by that he was brought in for a system of football that we no longer have. But if you're a professional, you've got to move on and adapt. And unfortunately, he has not. So too much money for what he's been putting out, mate. And I think it's a real shame. We've got think of the wages between him and Skip, and we're both saying that they shouldn't even be in the team whatsoever or, starting. So I think it's a real shame, mate. I think he can do a job elsewhere. But with how we're playing, and maybe as Locke said, maybe he's just not up to the Premier League. Maybe there's a reason why he got loaned out to Sampdoria. I think that, I don't know, mate, but that was by far the worst game I've ever seen Harry Winks play in a Leicester City shirt.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would say that it is looking like his physicality can't be matched. And I don't think that's right, given that this is an interesting comment. I think when we need that playmaker in a pivot, let's just drop Bilal back for 10 to 20 minutes in the game. Like, maybe that would have been a better way to go at that point in the time, is actually just put Bilal next to Samare or something like that. And then, Concha says he was great in the first 5 minutes, picked the ball up deep and made progressive passes, but it was the next 30 minutes. But that's what he's going to be rated on, isn't he? The fact that he's basically just kind of given away. But he was almost our best player last season. Is it purely systematic? I think the difference is, and Manny's not in the show right now, but when he's pressed at Premier League level, he can't handle it. He could handle it in the Championship because he got more time on the ball. And obviously there's mate Ricardo next to him, but he's got a mate next to him the whole time anyway. He's playing with a double pivot and he just gives the ball away. Like, it's something that he's got to look at, I think, very deeply himself, because he's got to be disappointed. It's not just, But he's got, like I say, he's got to take accountability. Like, he's rushing his pass, and that sort of player is supposed to be good under pressure. Anyway, he was our lowest rated player, I think, unsurprisingly. I think you could say. The thing I'll say is that, look, we were very unlucky to go out. At the end of the day, they scored off a definite offside goal, but they definitely turned on the pressure in that second half. And one of the big reasons, I think, was because Harry Winks came on the pitch instead of Wilfred Ndidi. All right, let's talk about someone.
This would be the second relegation of his career as well, because he got relegated with Sampdoria, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, he did as well, didn't he? Yeah, wow. I mean, I hate to say it, Locks, but it would be the same with Wout Faes, would be the same as Yannick Vestergaard. I mean, there's a common theme here, and it shows you like how good people either are or aren't. And yeah, Championship superstar, Premier League polo. Possibly true. All right, I'll give this one to you, Luke. So making his debut, not his debut, he's played a few times before, but we saw the most out of him compared to any previous game. Wayo Koulibaly.
Yeah, he had a few moments where he played himself into trouble, but then he had a lot of really good moments where he looks like probably our paciest of all our fullback options right now. Tracked back, marked his man well. His passing was on point as well. Like, he didn't really put a foot wrong. As I said, played himself into trouble a few times, but mate, isn't he just starting to feature this team? He should be starting, in my opinion, mate. I would much rather have, JJ and Wayo Koulibaly as our fullbacks, to be honest with you. And then when Ricardo Pereira comes back, that's another conversation. But for me, I think he deserves to start. I don't think he did anything really completely horrible. I'm kind of optimistic about him, mate, because he's our only signing. So we've got to be optimistic about something.
Yeah, I think he was average. There were some things he did which were good, some that did less good, but he was fast. You definitely noticed that. I was saying to you when we were watching the game that he reminds me a bit of a Coley, in that you can see he's fast and physical, but he's got a bit of a clanger in him. And I think he dropped a clanger as soon as I said that. And Amad Diallo almost got in, but then he almost recovered it and got the ball back, which is the cheat that you can do. I agree that it needed to start purely just because you got to build players' confidence. There was nothing on the line. It doesn't matter that we lost today, really, and he could do that. And yeah, admittedly, when Ricardo comes back, he could maybe replace JJ. Wolo was decent, got face and physicality to recover. Yeah, so you guys gave him a 5, bang on average, which I think is good. And yeah, I think this is a fair comment. A few good bits tonight, but it needs to see a full 90 minutes in his actual position before I make my mind up. I would agree with that. Okay, let's now go on to who is next on. Casey McAteer came on towards the end. He came on for Bobby Reed, didn't he, to try and shore up that side. I don't think he did too well there. What did you think about Casey McAteer's performance tonight?
Yeah, mate. I think that's it for him, to be honest with you. I think if we're in the Championship, maybe keep him. If not, he would never be a Premier League player, unfortunately. I like the kid. I liked him last season before Fatawu took his spot. But for me, he just looks out of his depth too bad in the Premier League every single time he's played. I know this wasn't a Premier League game, but it was a Premier League opposition. So for me, yeah, just nothing but a squad option right now because of the lack of depth that we have.
Yeah, I agree with that. We rejected 10 million. I don't know if it was a guaranteed 10 million, to be fair. There were some rumors that he'd only have got that if they got promoted. He is too soft, does not have the fight for me, says Imran. I agree. And Mimp, man, I miss Fatawu, says Buzz. And you know what? We'll quickly cover Fatawu because someone did ask us about it. So he goes, what did you think about Fatawu? Because he could be back. So he is back, it looks like, doing some sort of training, but still quite far away. But look, the season is until May. That's 3 more months. It wouldn't surprise me if Fatawu did come back for 2 to 3 games, maybe even more than that towards the end. But I think hold your horses a little bit because a fast, explosive player, there's no way they're going to be up at that level in their first game back. I think it might be a bit different, but Neymar actually returned to Santos in Brazil this week. And I saw some highlights from his game, and man, he looks like he's been eating too many KFCs. You could still see he had a bit of quality to him, but my point is you can't expect him to be at the level that anywhere near what he was in his first game back. Is going to take him like a few months. But yeah, McAteer, I would agree with you that, do you know what? I wouldn't necessarily say he could never be Premier League level, but I just think he cannot be playing in it right now. He needs a few seasons in the Championship. Like if he could prove himself to be good in the Championship, then maybe he could come up and do all right, but it's definitely way too early for him. So 3.8 we got, which was, yeah, a poor, one of the worst ratings. And I probably agree with that. Go on.
Neil, let me just say, everyone in the chat, be real. This is a ACL injury that he's just had. That's like 10 to 12 months minimum. It's way too optimistic. I don't even care if he thinks he's available. I do not want to play him. Do not risk it. That is absolutely mental. Unless he's got some special fucking German doctor out there that's injecting stem cells, BPC 157, and a multitude of peptides into his knee. Sure, could expedite the process of recovery. But if you're playing it by the book and by the rules where you can't dope and you can't cheat, there's no fucking way that he comes back this soon from an ACL surgery. I think that's absolutely a crazy take, and I think that's people just hoping it's not going to happen. He's not playing again this season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you don't want to risk him because he could keep us up in the championship next time. Right, there you go. Buzz says, ACL, I've done 2 ACLs. Bro, I am so sorry for you. That is awful. It took me 12 months to get over. Most professionals take 9 months. 6 to 7 months is too fast. Sean says on Makatit, it was 8 million guaranteed, but 10 million if they went up. But we rejected it because they couldn't find a winger in time. But yet we walked away from talks to that Brazilian club because they didn't want to have talks. Some Leicester up. Imran says, I can say it. He'll never be Premier League level. That's fair enough. And you could well be right. I have seen it happen before though, where people make a sort of an Indian summer to their career. I think Dewsbury Hall is a good example of that. Just quickly, good question from Lucas. Neil, Luke, thoughts on Jeremy Monga? Do you see him even on the bench going forward in league games? Going to lose him in the summer. Why not give him a chance? Nothing to lose. I'll give you my thoughts very fast on to you. Obviously, the clips that we see are really, really exciting. I've actually made some notes that I want to go back and see some of the under-21 games he's played in. You can catch them on some of the Leicester City TV players, so we can do a bit more research. Look, I don't think you can get your hopes up on someone who's so young, but I think that we should be giving him games, to be honest with you, because, yeah, people say he'll leave in the summer for free, but I don't know. I think that if you're a smart player, especially when you're young, you want to play in a team that's going to develop you. And I think Leicester City have shown it. They don't have a problem selling you. It's not like we're going to keep him here against our will. We're just saying, why don't you stick around? We'll play you, develop you. And then, you know, when you're 21, 22 and you're the finished article, then you get your big move to one of the top 4 teams. And then we get money, you do well. Everyone does well when you're a fully fledged international. Just to say thank you, Neil, for joining the channel. Welcome to the Blue Tinted family. But Luke, what do you think about Jeremy Monga? Well, how do you think we should use him?
I can show you clips of me at 5-a-side and make me look like the next Monga if you want. Anyone can look at it in a highlight. But like, if you, but like seriously, like, absolutely very exciting talent. Probably like we've all heard about how highly touted he is. Probably the best I've ever seen come out of the academy. But let's remind ourselves he's 15, and I agree with you, mate. If we are going to use him, let's say we were to go down, it would be smarter for him. He's been linked to Real Madrid and all these big clubs, but like the reality is he would just be developing his career there on the bench and maybe playing cup games for them. Whereas if we get relegated and we're going to need him, we have a transfer embargo, he's going to get played in the championship if he keeps developing on the trajectory that he is. So it's smarter for his career to have a season of us in the championship and then potentially move on if he sets the championship on fire at a young age, like Lamine or whatever his name is at Barcelona. I think that's my opinion, man. I don't know what you think, Neil, but I think that it would be redundant for him to go to another like really big club and not feature for another 2 or 3 years. But you could make arguments that he's training a better quality. Iron sharpens iron. But for me, hang on to him and see how he goes in the championship because we're probably going down.
Yeah. JC wants to see those clips, Luke. So patch them up, put them on YouTube and get that Desperado remix in the background so we can see those smooth skills. On Monga, let me just ask you a question and to all the chat. I'm sure they'll get this pretty quickly. But I'll give you an example. There was a player in the last 5 years that made their debut in the championship. I believe they were 15 years old. This player, even though they didn't play too many games, they ended up retiring his shirt number and he ended up transferring to a top European team for a lot of money. And he's since gone on to become a very important player and world-renowned star. Do you know who that player was, Luke?
I sure do, mate. It is, I've just completely, it's the bloke from Birmingham. What's his name? That plays for Real Madrid. I can't believe I've just forgot his name right now. Jude Bellingham. Thank you so much, Sean.
Jude Bellingham, exactly. And people laughed at the time. Even Man United were linked with him at that age, but he did turn out to be that good and made him a lot of money. Buzz, thank you for staying part of the family. We love you joining us every week and every day. Yeah, look, so I don't want to put that much pressure on him, but Jude Bellingham was the last time a player made their debut in the championship, and he did play about 10 to 12 games. I remember Birmingham fans did say that they were like, wow, this guy is ridiculous. Like, he is going to the top. They knew that, and they just felt a little bit sad. Oh, it's interesting. We had Ashley Chambers, who had a bit of debit too at 15 years old versus Blackpool. There you go. So yeah, retire number 93 for Jeremy Mongo. You never know. So let's see when he comes into it. But it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I do think it's a missed opportunity that we didn't give him his game today, and he'll be frustrated. I think if we'd have got to extra time, I think Rude would have put him on. So real shame that we didn't get to see him. Let's round this off then with the last of the subs. It was Facundo Buonanotte. Didn't come on for long, but I would rather see him play than Jordan Ayew. But when he was on, what did he do?
Nothing, mate. I just don't think that. I think, to sum it up, I think that he's not being played to his strengths, and I think Bilal's taken his place, and rightfully so. Unless we mention that Bilal gets dropped into a double pivot, which will probably most likely not happen. Unfortunately, I think we're going to continue to see this unless Buonanotte gets a run of game starting on that right wing. I can't see him changing, to be honest with you. I don't think it's entirely his fault. I do think he plays himself into trouble sometimes and has his head over the ball too much and tries taking on the whole team. It doesn't suit playing up that right-hand side position. So I don't know, Neil, mate, but for me, I just can't see him turning around unless he gets, like I said, a run of consistent games. And
he's not going to get that. His confidence is in the gutter. I don't know what Rude's done to him. Rude has destroyed this guy. It must just be personal. Do you know that sometimes you just look at someone and you don't know why, but you just immediately take a disliking to them? I think that's what most people have when they see me, to be honest, if you explain a lot. But I think Rude just has that with him and doesn't like him and is not going to give him a chance. And to be fair, because he's a lone player, he's, not going to be with us next season. Yeah, Facundo slipped again. He might have slipped, but I mean, I don't know. Yeah, and I don't think the talk around him leaving in the window will have helped his confidence. And you know what? He may not be that good, but at the same time, he was playing well earlier in the season. That's just a fact. So, don't know. So in the end, he got given a 3.8, which is also a very low rating, but not as low as Harry Winks, which is the loser at 3 out of 10. Bilal El Kanous, the winner, he got 8 out of 10 from you guys, which was very good. So I tell you what, let's round off the show and give some kind of final thoughts, which I think is good. And I think here's a good question, actually, to round it up from Peter. Did anyone else gain some hope from this match? Hermansen, Christensen, Okoli, Fass, JJ, Booba, and Ndidi, Bilal. The building blocks are there. What do you think, Luke? Are we just getting too optimistic? You got to say, Man United were pretty poor. You can see why they're struggling. But we did look quite good for pot. Well, good, but we contained them for large periods. So how are you feeling? Are we just being delusional, or is there something to cling on to?
I think there's something to be cling to with Wilfred and Ndidi. Like the difference between the first and second half was night and day. And I definitely agree with you that Manchester United were awful, just like Spurs were. So you could say that maybe we're deluded to get hope. I've got to be honest with you, mate. I already kind of accepted we're down. There's only one player when he's fit and firing again that may change my mind, and it depends where he plays, and that's Ricardo Pereira. I am curbing my enthusiasm. He is getting towards the end of his career. He's had a lot of debilitating injuries. He's been out for a while. But let's say that, we've got about 6-7 games to go, and he's had about 2 or 3 games in him. He's fit again. He's firing. I want to see how we go then. I would play him in a double pivot position at this point. If Samari keeps having stinkers like that, people say I'm being a harsh. I would say stinker, but to be honest with you, I think Ricardo Pereira would be a better option than double pivot alongside Wilfred and Ndidi, because we know that he can drop back into that right side position to help out JJ. He would be the best option for the right-handed side cover. I'm kind of hinging my hopes until he comes back, to be honest with you, mate.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'm not sure. I think this was better than I expected. I will definitely say that. But I mean, I just thought Man United were absolutely awful, to be honest with you. So not much I can really say there. We are playing Arsenal next. I'm bringing up the fixtures here. But I will say that the team with Mads Hermansen back in and Ndidi look a lot better. And I think the first couple of games under Rude, I felt we looked way much better, right? We got the win against West Ham. Yes, it was a bit fortunate, but we still took our chances. Brighton, we got back into it. We generally looked better. And in that Brighton game, we lost Ndidi. And that's really where I think we've had a lot of problems. So I think those two being in a team, maybe we'll see something. That let's go through the fixtures. I think, probably a lot of people will agree. So, next up, we've got the Arsenal. I mean, what do you think that's going to be?
I'll be watching the game like this. You just won't see it. I'll be behind the couch, bro. I've got to do the preview for that. I feel like just going to preview, but like we're going to get battered, look out, and then just end the stream. I don't know, mate. I don't even want to talk about the Arsenal game. It gives me fear. The Brentford game at home, that's going to be interesting. And then we've got West Ham away. I don't see where the next win comes from, to be honest with you, mate.
Well, don't worry. After that, then we've got Chelsea away, and then we've got Man United again.
Amra might be sacked by then, to be honest with you. I doubt it, but like it's in the pot. If they lose a string of games, I don't know. They might. He's playing people in funky positions. I don't know, mate. I just the only game I can see as possibly getting a result there is West Ham, and that's it. Maybe a draw. That's what kind of worries me, to be honest with you.
Yeah. This comment, I just want to say, Luke absolutely hates Daka. You should go back and see some of our previous stuff. He's given him some stuff that we honestly could have got banned for with what he said about Patson Daka. So trust me, he is not a fan of him. After that, then we've got Man City away. I mean, I think this April is the brutal one. This is the worst one. We've got Man City away, Newcastle at home, Brighton away, Liverpool at home, and then we end that month. If we're not already relegated or dead by then the season begins, because then you've got Wolves, Southampton. This is the one that I'm really dreading, because this could be the game that we're relegating. If we're relegated to Forest, will life even be worth living anymore? Not sure. And then we end the season, Ipswich and then Bournemouth. That's a brutal game to end with. Like at the start of the season, you're probably thinking, oh, that's not a bad one if it goes down to the last day, but that is awful game to end with. So running out of games, running out of time. Look, I don't think we're going to do it. Relegated or dead. Nice summary. I can see us getting something against Brentford, says Imran. I like your confidence, but I just think they absolutely destroyed us. And I think they're going to do something similar to what Everton did. Maybe having a Coley will give us more of a benefit, but their physicality, they just brutalized us the last time we played. Anyway, look, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Blue Tinted Glasses. It's ended 2-1 in the FA Cup. But come on, let's talk about, lads, that's a pretty cruel way to get knocked out of the cup. Most offside decision you'll see this season, I think. No VAR in the cup, of course. Very unfortunate. If you enjoyed the stream, please leave a comment. What do you think of a performance? Who was your man in a match? Who wasn't? Join us on the channel. We will be here on Sunday next for Good Morning Foxes with Locks. I'm not sure if Luke will be there. Hopefully he'll join us. Other content on the channel. We've got the call-in show on Monday. We'll have the match previews, many more. I will be doing some analysis on this one. I think this was an interesting game to do. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Blue Tinted Glasses. Take care, and we'll see you next time.